Well, I want to examine this issue about the. I know it's on the conspiracy alternative media. It's mentioned there sometimes about the tsunami bomb that exists in some of the military circles that the Russians have and things. But first off, I'm gonna tell you some things about it that are ludicrous. That some of the statistics they give, like what it's capable of, but also I think this is quite plausible for, say, not a large nation to do, but maybe a rogue nation. It could be, and I'll get into that. Now, but we do have a little bit of information as to how much a tsunami bomb could affect the economy through what happened to Japan Island, right? Japan. Um, Now, there was a lot of devastation there, and the Japanese people are very stoically, very disciplined, um, just worked out of the disaster, which is still actually a problem in Fukushima radiation. But they worked, I think they handled that disaster exemplarily. As whereas if this happened in the United States, it would definitely not be that way. The major media would also be at fault for playing it up a lot too. I mean, no matter what happened, some disaster happened, and the way they present things on the major media would maybe make it worse. Now we have had a little bit of some of these type of problems, nowhere near like what happened in Japan, but when they had Hurricane Sandy, and that hit like the New Jersey, New York area. There was some flooding in the subways and the parking lots. As a matter of fact, when New Jersey residents were cutting down trees that fell on power lines, they're cutting away the trees. The cities were going around issuing, fines for not getting a permit for cutting a tree. That's how great our government was during that crisis. It was amazing. Now, this picture I'm showing here is just an artist's rendition of a tsunami. Like, now, I just want to tell you some of the facts about the Japanese tsunami. Um, its height, the greatest height that was measured, and I know when it's out to sea, it may be 4 or 5 feet high, and when it gets closer to the water, it starts building up because of the water has nowhere to go because the land is coming up and the water's getting more shallow. So it got up to 128 feet high, and it went as far as 6 miles inland. Now, what the Russians are claiming, well, this was a leak actually on some Russian broadcast. Now, I don't even want to harp on them because I don't think they're going to do anything, okay? I really don't think they're going to do anything at all. I don't think the Chinese are going to do anything at all. But this could be something, this could be actually be plausible for some other nation that gets this technology, and it's not really high tech because back in the 1940s, the United States was planning on using a tsunami bomb against Japan in World War II. That's a fact, right? It's not conjecture. The technology has existed since the 40s, so I think any nation that has a nuclear weapon could do this, right? Now, you're thinking, well, the United States is really big and all this, but I'm going to show you something maybe related. But we'll get into that a little bit. But the Russian, I mean, what's been repeated on the alternative media, and is, I don't know. They say they're going to use 100. It's a 100 megaton warhead, tsunami of up to 500 meters or 1,650 feet that would go 900 miles inland. That's ludicrous. It's beyond ludicrous, okay? The Japanese tsunami hit a height of 128 feet and went as far as 6 miles inland. I don't know, maybe something's 1,000 feet, it might go 50 miles inland or whatever, but that still would be horrific, right? But I want to also state that we've had some kind of lessons in this before with natural weather events that have happened, but we have not really had, with the exception of Hurricane Sandy, and that's not a tsunami bomb, but that did affect the economy in the New York metropolitan area, and that's really what I want to concentrate on. But I also want to go delve down a little bit of the conspiracy trail on something too, because well, you can find this on YouTube, and on YouTube they call it something else. They don't really refer to it the way I'll be referring to it. Like, this is actually a snapshot of a volcano that was going on during the time of tsunami in Japan. And if you're looking at, towards the middle bottom of your screen, slightly to the left of your screen, that big bright light. Well, if you're looking, this is actually a snapshot of the public webcam of a volcano in Japan. It looks like an orb. I don't know how to describe it. A circle, right? A circle of white light that just kept growing and growing and growing. To me, it looked obviously not natural. And I know on YouTube they repost these videos and they call it UFO, alien fleet, and all this crap. It's garbage. I honestly, obviously, since it's not a doctored up webcam, it was a public webcam of this volcano, and I know the major media pretty much ignores this garbage stuff at all, big time. I'm going to throw out the UFO alien garbage big time, but I'm going to tell you, I think it was just, some kind of high-tech weapon. Now, here's where I'm going to go down a little bit on a conspiracy trail with the Japanese tsunami, and I know maybe the YouTube might not like this because I'm going down a conspiracy trail, but I'm using pure logic on it, and I'm going to say something that I wish I PDF'd the article when I read it. It was from an article about the Japanese car manufacturers using a new technology that was developed by Genepacks. And if you look on YouTube, you can find the Genepacks quote-unquote water-powered car, which is not actually water-powered, it's hydrogen-powered, hydrogen from water. And you can look on YouTube and you can find Stanley Myers, what he did back in the 70s and how he was killed and all that. Now, I know some people say that technology doesn't exist, but and it's impossible to do because you can't get more energy out of something than you put energy into. But it's not really that way. In the way I look at it, it's as if you're mining the hydrogen out of the water, just as if people back, I don't know, 100 years ago couldn't understand how you can take oil out of the ground that's over a mile deep and pump it out of the ground and do that energy efficiently, right? Well, maybe that's the same type of thing. It's an energy intensive operation that gets you more energy, but the net effect is like you're mining the hydrogen out of the water, right? Well, the major Japanese car companies, and I wish I PDF'd the article because the link went dead. Boy, if I PDF'd that article, boy, that was freaking would have been. Mitsubishi was one of the major companies, the big ones though. They were going to come out with luxury cars using the Genepacks technology. They had you could see the news reports about Genepacks driving around a little compact car in Japan. You can run it off of water, tea, or whatever. It's not actually running off the water and the tea. It's running from the hydrogen from the water and the tea, any kind of liquid that you put into it, and it had a special type of, electronic electrolysis, a very efficient method of breaking out the hydrogen from the water. Well, they were going to use that technology in the high-end luxury cars, the Japanese car manufacturers. And what happened right after that? The tsunami. And to me, it's like hands down. It's not only about the oil industry, but it's about the petrodollar. It's about the way things exist in the world, who's running what racket and all this. It would upset everything. That would just throw it out the door. I wish I PDF'd the article. But the cost of adding that technology to a luxury car wasn't that much. It would be expensive. It would be thousands of dollars to add to the price of an economy car. So they weren't going to go that route. They were going to put it in the luxury cars. So if you're paying $60,000 for a luxury car and it costs $66,000, and you got the first car in a block that you can put water in it, and it splits the hydrogen from the water electronically or whatever, and it just runs and runs and runs. You just got to put water in it. People that got money to buy $60,000 to $70,000 cars or more, they're going to pay another 5 or 10 grand for that technology, no problem. That was the logic of the Japanese car industries, and that made a lot of sense. Why put in an economy box? That's adding, you know, 35% to the cost, while you're adding maybe 10% of the cost of a more expensive car, 5% to the cost of a more expensive car. Well, I think that's really what happened here. I think this was I personally do. I mean, call that, I don't believe the UFO alien crap, but I do believe that this was directed at Japan and their auto industry as a lesson to, stop them from pursuing this technology. Now, you could say that's ludicrous, fine. I don't know. But when I read, the one about the technology with Genepacks that came out in 2008. A couple years later, in 2010, they were going to start producing it in Japan with luxury cars. It was supposed to be coming out real soon. Well, then you had the tsunami, earthquake, volcano, and all this other garbage. Now, so I think what I'm bringing that out for is I think this has already been done, okay? In modern times, they've used the tsunami weapon. I think that's really what that was. I think it was another natural event. It wasn't a UFO, it wasn't an alien, and it wasn't just done for no reason. It was done for a reason that it would affect the whole structure of the way the entrenched power structure of the world. Not only the oil industry, but the whole financial structure. Because the dollar is based upon petrodollars and the fact that people use energy and all that, right? The way they're using it in the world today. Now, if you looked at a tsunami bomb today and you said, now, I don't think Russia's going to do anything. I know they did that leak with the out of their state broadcast about the tsunami bomb and all that. It was an extreme exaggeration, obviously, but it doesn't need to be anywhere near of the magnitude they say it can do. Now even if it can go over 1,000 feet high tsunami, which I don't believe that in a million years anyway, it's not going to go 900 miles inland like they're claiming, but it doesn't have to. I personally think if there's this, to me, is bad news, and what are you going to do about it? Nothing, right? You can't do nothing. But it's bad news because there's really no way to defend against it, because you wouldn't know when it's coming up on you, right? Somebody sets off one of these things a few hundred miles away in the water. What are you going to do about it? Nothing, right? It's not like it's a missile going up in the air and it's going to be EMP and it's going to do this EMP pulse. Even that wouldn't be anywhere as bad, because after the pulse is over, we just, I don't know, we'll be riding horses and riding bicycles or something. I don't know. But, burning wood for power, right? I mean, we'll get along. But this would be bad news. Now, this is where it could be very, very effective. And if you look at, in the United States, you look at, okay, this is a map of the U.S. population density by county. Now, I'm going to get into a little more than this because the population doesn't really reflect how damaging it could be to the country. But if you look in the Northeast, particularly, I'm from the Northeast near New York City originally, New Jersey, New York, Long Island, Massachusetts, and Boston, whatever, fine, if they hit Washington, D.C., it would probably make the country run better, if they just blew up D.C., that'd be okay. I mean, fine, I'm just kidding about that, but if they hit this area, it's bad news. But if you really look at it, it's beyond the population. If you look at this map, your gross domestic product, right, GDP, 50% of the economic activity in the United States is concentrated in the orange areas on its map. So if you hit right in here, you set this off right here. Now, what country I'd be thinking of is North Korea. Or maybe even Iran someday. I don't know. But North Korea, definitely. Definitely. If you hit in this area right here, and it hit Baltimore, Philadelphia, went up to, Chesapeake Bay or something like that. But particularly New York. Not just New York City, but if people are not familiar with New Jersey, like if you're getting down in, Hoboken Union and all that, right? There's miles and miles and miles of piers. It doesn't need to be, the 1,000 foot high wave or something. It it could be, on par with what hit Japan, right? 100 foot wave or maybe less than that. Oh, and you're talking that would take out so much that we would not recover from it for decades. There's no doubt about that. And in a lot of ways, we're very, very vulnerable. Now, for me bringing this up, whatever. Sorry, I don't know. But, I know I had to address this because I saw this being mentioned on some of the alternative conspiracy blogs and all that kind of stuff. First off, it doesn't, the 500-meter high, up to 500-meter high, tsunami wave produced by a nuclear weapon that the Russians have, that they leaked, that they have. I don't know. I don't think Russia would do this, because they're tied in with us economically in a lot of different ways. The oligarchs are. The oligarchs are dealing in Switzerland. They got their businesses registered in Cyprus. They're dealing with Western banks. The Chinese are trading with us left and right. Yeah, I know there's a big trade imbalance, fine, but I don't think this requires like super high end technology for it to happen. So, North Korea, why not, right? Even Iran, I don't know. There could be more religious, extreme Islamic. Somebody gets in charge of something, does something. I don't know. It could be, but I don't think it's going to require. You don't need the high tech requirements that the Russians leaked, that the alternative media is repeating. And actually, when the Russians are attacking, they have a bomb that can do 100 megatons nuclear warhead that can set off a wave that's 500 meters high, that's 1,650 feet, that can go 900 miles inland. They're talking practically to the Mississippi River, going over mountains that are 3 to 5,000 feet or more. No way in hell. That's BS, man. But it doesn't need to do that because, looking at, not just the population map, but look at the GDP map, where the real economic activity and power is located. Mainly, really in the Northeast. The Northeast. Yeah, you could say Miami, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, Colorado, San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento area, whatever. Fine. Yeah, I know. But it's really up in the Northeast. It's that would do it. That would do it. Now it would be the financial sector too. Now, if there's one country out there that is really crazy enough to do this, it would be North Korea. And the other thing is, I'm not sure if they'd be capable of doing this. They got a nuke, but I don't know how good it is. Does it work underground? Is it? Could you light it? Could you light the fuse under the water? I'm just kidding about that. I don't know. But to me, this would be a much more efficient weapon than an EMP. Now, on top of that, it might be very difficult to figure out who the hell did it. You'd have to figure it's one of the nuclear countries, but, well, you wouldn't really know, man. And actually, even if, say, Russia was really, really, really mad at us, and I don't think it's going to happen that way now that Trump's elected, because obviously it's not so much I'm worshiping him, but I noticed he picked a guy for the Secretary of State. What was his name? Tillerman? I forgot his name already. That is, he's very much good friends with Russia, Putin, and the second guy in charge after Putin. That's good. He didn't pick any Russian hardliner, so I was kind of worried about if he's going to pick a Russian hardliner. So, yeah, don't do that. He's probably pissing off China, but I don't think China wouldn't do this, because China's, they get mad, but they wouldn't do this because they would screw up all the business. You'd have to be some real loony country to do this. North Korea is one I could think of. Now, if you get some of the more extreme, radical Islamic people, maybe, possibly, I don't know. Maybe somebody in Iran that's a real, hates us infidels or something, real lot. Maybe they might. I don't know. But I think this is entirely semi-plausible, even though the major alternative media exaggerates the crap out of it. The economic activity, GDP concentrations, are right there on the coast in Northeast United States, in the New York, New Jersey, New York, Long Island, metropolitan New Jersey area. Um, that would screw us up big time. You know, I mean, yeah, there's too much coming out. I mean, I know there's a lot of garbage going on over there, but there's too much coming out, and I don't think it would be that difficult to do, because I don't think it requires real high-end technology to do this, and you really can't defend against it. Now, honestly, if you're looking back through history, and like I was in the military, um, I know there was always these, before, when the Cold War was going on, or actually, I don't know, maybe semi going on a little bit now. Um, they these, I don't know what people worry about. I don't, you're not gonna, what are you gonna do about it, right? But some of the stuff about people prepping for disasters, maybe this is why you want to do this. I mean, right? I mean, something happens. I don't know. Who the hell knows? But just wanted to kind of like look at this for more of an exercise, possibly to, yeah, maybe this could happen. I do think that the Japan tsunami, man, well, first off, if you look at another thing you can see on YouTube, Vladimir Zhirinovsky claimed the Russians did it. I don't think they did it. I think the West did it, to tell you the truth, about the oil, the energy technology that was going to be adapted by the Japanese car manufacturers. I think that's really what happened there. I know maybe this can be too hot for YouTube. I don't know, man. You guys are freaking. I mean, I'm being honest about this. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just telling you. There's sometimes these way out things that seem way out to be way out conspiracies on the surface. There's some truth to them. And honestly, there's been these what if situations for a long time. I mean, it's like you don't want to be living in fear all the time or anything, which I'm not. I just kind of look at the information and say, well, yeah, some of it's semi-plausible. And, even our military planners that, if we ever had a all-out nuclear war or something like that, say, there's always, they planned with nuclear war with Russia or China, they always did this. Our entire aircraft carrier fleet was considered written off right inside of like a matter of a couple weeks or days or something like that. They wrote it off. They don't even consider it as like an asset that would be around for the long term. They got other stuff out there, I don't know if this is going to happen though. I mean, really. But I do think there's one country out there that's crazy enough to do this shit for sure. It would be North Korea if they had the means to do it. So when I looked at when the alternative media was repeating what was leaked on a Russian state news network about the tsunami bomb, and it was sort of like they accidentally leaked it, I don't know, because I think they were mad at something the U.S. was saying or something. Probably not now, because things are getting smoothed out a lot more, because we got like a Secretary of State that's good friends with Putin, and also the guy that's the second in charge of Russia is widely believed to be the second in charge of Russia. And I don't think Russia would want to do this. I don't think China would want to do this. But I know the statistics they gave on the stuff. The numbers they gave were just ridiculous. What I mean? Even if the wave was 1,000 feet high, it wouldn't go, hundreds and hundreds of miles within the United States. No way in hell. But then, like I said, even if it was a 50-foot tidal wave, whatever, less than half the size of the maximum height of the Japanese tidal wave, and it hit the New York metropolitan, Long Island, New Jersey metro area, you saw the concentration of GDP, not just population, but GDP. There's a lot of production going on in that area. That would really, really hurt the United States a lot, and it would not The United States wouldn't recover from it for decades. Um, so, in a lot of ways, I do somewhat take this serious, but what the hell are you going to do about it? Nothing, right? I can't do nothing about it. So, but, you know, it's almost like you want to look at it like this way. First off, you got the religious angle. You got to be right with God, right? And you got to be thinking like enjoy life while it's here. That's another thing you can think about. And for the people out there that are preppers and you're preparing once in a while, and you're not a worrywart, but you prepare once in a while. That's probably a pretty smart thing to do because who the hell knows, right? And the other thing is, there's a lot of lessons you can learn from the Japanese people. I got the utmost respect for the Japanese people. It's like if that tsunami hit the United States the way it hit Japan, the Japanese took the tasks in a disciplined, stoic manner and worked very hard and just immediately started, you know, fixing things that needed to be fixed and making right things that need to be made right. I got the absolute, I don't know if the Americans would be able to handle that kind of calamity the way the Japanese have taken that. I mean, I have the utmost respect for the Japanese people, so that's one thing to really learn from them a lot. That's a lot you can learn from the Japanese people, big time. But just want to examine this because I do think it's plausible, not to the extent that the alternative media is saying, and not that I would think it would come from Russia or a superpower like China or something. I think it would come from a rogue nation, possibly. And we are actually vulnerable to this because it's more plausible than an EMP. And it would be more devastating than an EMP, too. Because an EMP, if it hit the center of the nation and it didn't knock out the New York metropolitan area, and say, I know it'd be bad if it hit the center of the nation, but you know, you don't want this happening in the New York metropolitan area. As much as I don't like it up there, and I don't like it's too crowded, it's got too much garbage going on up there. It produces way more in the manner of GDP for this country than people imagine, and that would mess us up. And I don't, what I'm presenting here, I know rogue nations, they already know about this. So how would you defend against this? I don't think you could. Somebody set something off in the middle of deep in the water, a couple hundred miles off the coast of freaking New York. Forget it, man. Forget it. So, maybe some of those biblical predictions they have about revelations in the United States or whatever, maybe they're true. I don't know. But just food for thought. And that's another reason, like I said, not to worry about it, but that's another reason to. And I'm not trying to make people worried about this or scare people, but I think what I put out here is legit. And also that one conspiracy theory I put out here about the Japanese tsunami being, done with a military weapon, I think that's true. I'm pretty sure of it. I don't think it was just nature. That's my opinion, and I already told you the reason for that, and hopefully Mr. YouTube doesn't think that's too hot and heavy for me to say, but, I suspected that big time, especially when I saw, that webcam. If you look for it, you'd have to look for it, and it says like UFO alien fleet or something, some crap like that. It's nothing to do with that, really. To me, it looked like a special high-tech weapon that was causing the volcano to go off when an earthquake was going on. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. And this picture doesn't do it justice, even though it's a snapshot of the public webcam. If you look at the public webcam, you can see how small this little dot starts of white light. Then it's a round dot. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and starts smoking. It's like it's an orb or something. I don't know what the hell you would call it. And I just don't buy into the UFO alien crap. But I do buy into. I do think there's a lot of high-tech weapons out there that the public doesn't know about, and you know, they'll use it against people who are going to upset the apple cart of the oil and petrodollar and the existing financial system. So, I don't know. But who the hell knows? Anyway, so just food for thought. And, I kind of don't even want to put this out because it gets too much down a conspiracy trail. But I think what I put out here is reality. It's like I said a couple things that other people wouldn't say about with Japan's earthquake. And I also told you that UFO alien stuff is a bunch of garbage. And I also told you that I don't think Russia and China is going to do anything against the United States. But I think some rogue nation, this would be the most efficient way of screwing us up. And if there's one rogue nation I could think of out there that comes to mind first, it's North Korea. That guy, they would do it. They would do it. Anyway, over and out.